Hello everyone, I'm Rob Smith of the Black Quant Edge VTF here, T3 Live, and so let's start taking a look at what we got coming up this week and what we saw last week. So if we go to this here, you'll see the SPY did pretty much what we were talking about. And so last week, you'll recall, I was talking about the sequence of the inside, inside, outside, inside, and we'll take a look at that. And so when we see this, the here, you even had this inside and outside, and then inside, inside, outside, inside. And so that sequence, if that continues, there's also a momentum hammer that we should get the real move last week, which to a certain extent we did. We went into the highs, and so whenever we go into new highs, most things are going to look pretty good because they're on the highs. But then it's a matter of continuation, and we don't have actionable signals as we did last week. We had the inside hammer week. Now we have nothing. We're just going into the highs. So no one can dispute that. It's just, whether it continues or not should be a matter of walking through all the sectors, which we're going to get to here in just a second. Go to Dow Jones Diamonds, did the same, the inside week after the Rev Strat here. Rev Strat week puts us 20,000, then goes inside Momo Hammer and right to the highs. So, like I said, anytime you pin on the highs, what are you going to do? It's a matter of continuation or exhaustion up here. And sector by sector, you go to QQQ. Did the same, and we already knew that the Qs were stronger, by all this move going into the highs, and then indeed, once again, momentum hammer into the highs. Go to Apple, and Apple weekly good here. Remember, it holds the gap here, and then inside day, and then off to the races. So, once again, off near the highs, but no new actionable signals to go on. If we go to small cappers still interesting here because small cappers did take the IWM, did take the inside week. However, it's still in this bar's range. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks completely within this bar's range. So now we've got that hammer here again. So we'll see if the small cappers get a little bit more love and take them into the highs this week too. If we go to TLT bonds, so the bonds here still would be an inside month, and so down in here want to see what is this down and all this stuff. Is this a bottoming, or we're trying to go inside and try and come back up into this, or is it just holding here as a consolidation pattern for another leg down? Right now, nothing new because it's still inside month, so that would have to change. If we go to SVXY, oh yeah, bam, SVXY is still going. Once again, that was another momentum hammer and got up to 126 and change, and so once again, no new actionable signals. A lot of this stuff exhausts towards the highs, so we need to reset some of this stuff up, or we're going to go into heavier sector rotation, which is a distinct possibility. So if we go back to those judges, well, SPY, I just want to show one more thing here because sometimes they make it a little bit tougher than it may appear on the weekly charts. And so what actually occurred, was on the 60-minute, we first made the attempt to break the week right here and then failed. You got to know when you fail levels, and we got discernible broadening formation, go down, stop everybody out here, and now free to go. And this was your triangle continuation that rebroke that inside week to the upside and got the real move. So I just want to make sure you can see that. If we go back to the Dow Jones Diamond stocks, you got Cisco. Cisco up in here is presently taking an inside month to the upside. Here, here, inside month and up to the Cisco, so we'll keep an eye on that with the tech. You got DuPont here going 2-bar inside pattern on the weekly here. So it tries to get outside here. We still need to get outside of this big bar, but you got 2 weeks of inside. So, for many people who like to trade breakouts, they'll sit there and wait for this. You don't have to do that. You want to see for anything that's breaking above these last 2 weeks. Go to Disney, and Disney does this. Disney does that, takes them down to the outside, upside. Now the question, can you maintain up into here? And you got some shooting stars there, but you start off the week with the potential Rev Strat day after the earnings. Shoot them up, bring them in, and now inside day countered by opening and closing in that. So that would go Rev Strat day, at least to start the week, over 109.80. Go to GE. And GE, you can see, trying to come off some recent lows. We've got a daily hammer trying to come off of this stuff, and that caused the formation of this weekly hammer. So if GE wants to start participating a little bit better in the Dow, you've got this downtrend here, and now weekly hammer to keep an eye on. If we go to Intel, Intel got hit a little bit last week, and Intel, when it did, it caused this. Now your monthly shooting star down for the Intel off of the top, off the slight higher highs here. So Intel's got that. However, to start the week, if she wants to try and counter that, you do come off a hammer, and so the hammer can draw a triangle after the end of the day, something like that. So we'll watch this daily hammer or full time frame continuity at any time during the downside with that monthly shooting star. If we go to John Janssen does this. Remember, we've been watching this triangle for a while too. How's it going to get out of this? Right here. Well, it's going to go inside weak and to the upside, which it did. You're still a little bit trapped in this stuff. So if you look at the monthly, still inside month. So you'd want to see if this thing could set up to take out either side of this month first. But you do have a little bit of that triangle action on the daily here to try and set it up. So they come through this stuff. Now it's going to be strong enough to make a shot towards there. So you can look for additional continuation patterns there to try and challenge the month. If we go to Microsoft, and Mr. Softy going inside weak. So the question is it come up in time for old school tech, or to go down inside measured move and start dropping through that stuff, or is just a inside weak and start consolidation off the lows and try and come back up. Either side of that week get my attention. If we go to Coke outside week to the downside and taking a beating over there in the Dow Jones, you can see here, now coming back towards the bottom of the triangle like that. And on the monthly, I don't believe it was quite inside of the month, but you got Doji trying to take that thing down. So Coke's suffering, but XLP itself doing just fine. XLP actually walking up here. As the yield guys are back a little bit, you're starting off as Momo Hammer, and you got Pepsi so far outperforming the Coke and going inside day, and Pepsi would be inside month to the upside. You look at Dr. Pepper coming up here too, and Momentum Hammer monthly. And if you look at this weekly, you're going to see this here. So Dr. Pepper and Pepsi challenging the Coke, if you will. If we go to McDonald's in the Dow has inside month and up there, Momentum Hammer as well. So that signal is still in force. So look for continuation patterns. If we go to the trannies still knocking on the door. Didn't fall apart. Anytime they make those highs, it's time to correct. I'm like, yeah, okay. How hard they're going to come in is the other story. So right now, would still be inside month, but certainly not falling apart, the trannies. So how we're going to get through all this stuff would be the question. If we take a look at the airlines, you got American Airlines here, tried to fall apart and refused. Here, bottom of the try here, so you can draw these like this or however you want. But anytime you take out and reclaim stuff like this, coming back to the middle of the range, so I'm not sure how we can get out of this, but we would look for additional actionable signals. Remember that monthly went shooter down, but then didn't fall apart. Took the slight lower low. So what is this consolidation is what we're looking at on that daily like this. So we'll see how it sets up to either take that out or that out going forward. United Airlines, a little bit different of a story, tighter pattern here, and United Airlines still inside month, and so that would need to change. If we go to Delta still doing similar to the other ones, shooter down and then holding up in this pattern. You can see something like this in the Delta here. Try and see if you're going to take out that or all the way back down there. You're dead in the middle, so a little tough on those. Alaska Air still hanging near the highs, and that's going inside day right off the highs, and so has been outperforming in an inside day to try and go into new highs, but that'd be momentum there. So if we go to Union Pacific here, sets up as RevStrat day to the downside. See how tight this triangle is to start off, and what that gives you is an inside week. And remember, some of the stuff that, when you have a strong bull market like we've had, keep looking at these things that still have a shot at going to all-time highs. And so there's still some time on, some room on that, meat on them bones, if you will. But it starts off an inside week, so we'll see either side of that. UPS, probably going to be a corpse. Inside week, and it's got to get outside of here. You're going multi-week pattern for a very long time, potentially. So ideally, we would prefer this to the downside because you're nowhere near taking out the upside. But you want to be cautious anytime you see something like that, because until it takes that out or that out, and granted it's a large range, it's considered consolidating. So what that means is that any change in continuity, a new 60, new day, new week, that thing can flip right back against you. So be careful on that. So if we go to FedEx, a little bit different story. Now, it is in the middle of this range and is a hammer, but certainly not as big of a range to have to take out as UPS. And on that monthly, you got this. here. Tried to come in, doesn't, and starts coming back up. And so on the daily, you'll see this here. So higher high, lower lows, higher high, and then lower low, and now back in the middle. So see if that inside we can get that FedEx going at all. If we go to, TRN, freight cars, TRN. Keeping on this weekly hammer, tried to hit him through twice through here, and comes back up. So TRN can get my attention above those hammers or below them, to tell you the truth. If we go to CHRW, trucker, CHRW, just another inside week in the trannies. Let's see if that can take that out. JB Hunt trucker here. Outside momentum hammer on the highs. It's also would be monthly momentum hammer if they want to get it going. So we'll keep an eye on that for sure. If we go to rider systems here coming back up on the monthly, but what it's going to do here is going to give you that outside week, inside week. And so the hopes of that is that we get this broadening formation outside bar to expand off this inside week. And that would look something like this on your daily here to try and take either that out or that out. So once that starts moving for either side, that'll get my attention. If we go to the Utes, XLU, utility's still trying to get out of this business in here, and they're working their way up here. And remember the monthly here, utilities were inside month, so XLU goes inside month about 49.22. It's there right now to try and get out of this. But anytime you have a significant resistance level that a lot of eyeballs are on, sometimes it takes a little bit to get out of there. But we can look Dominion, which went inside month and down. We always want to see what things are going to create here. I was trying to counter it, but now it goes weekly. So the question is going to be strong enough to take that weekly and come back up here and try and rev strat one bar that month, or drop back down and be one of the weaker utilities. So we'll see how that goes. We'll have to that inside week in Dominion, NEE here coming up, and that here was inside month and up and still trying to get out of this bar. So we'll see if it can do that. And starting off the week, here's an inside day to try and help that out. If you go to PEG, Peggy, see Peggy here a little bit closer to the bottom of a triangle here to see if we can get out of this to help or hinder the breakout of the utilities themselves. And you got an inside week to do that. So the hopes for this would be coming off something like this. Here, use this inside week to try and propel towards the highs and regain some of this strength here. Up, consolidate, inside week, and if the utilities are really going to go, you can keep an eye on this weekly to try and get up through there. If we go to the REITs a little quiet here. VNQ, you can see how tight of a range this is. Did try and take this bar down to the downside and come back up in here, but a little quiet over there. We can look if they start failing as HCN is going inside week, and if that breaks back to the downside, you do have your rev strat month shooting star countering the inside bar. So we'll see how that goes. If we go to XME, XME still doing the chugga here, and remember since the beginning of last year, it's chug. No actionable signal on that, but just hanging around the highs like pertinent and everything else. So we'll see how that follows through. If we go to gold. Gold trying to maintain up in here, no actionable signal there, but if you go to the weekly, somewhat of a shooter, but it takes all this stuff out. And remember, it's just on that daily, it's just been slowly grinding here. Tries to get out of here and holding this upper level for now. If we go to the GDX has been a little bit stronger. Talked about that, trying to lead the gold itself. And so now we have this range up in here. No new actionable signal will be the problem. Silver a little better. Silver closing on the highs, or at least it was better for then. But once again, with no new actionable signal here, it's all straight momentum to try and take all this kind of stuff out. But handily took this out, and that was nice. So just don't have too much in the stocks there because it's just doing the slow grinder. So we'll continue to watch how these underliers go. But if you go to the aluminum guys, ARC just ripping here. And nice move here. I mean, nary a red. Now, unfortunately, like I said, no new actionable signals on something like that, and you can still watch the double A, which is just kind of hanging around here. And if you go to the weekly here, was inside week, took it up a little bit, so you have a 2-week inside pattern. Right, these two bars completely within that pattern. So either side of that stuff gets my attention for additional actionable signals. You go to CENX, remember what a ripper that was. And that one weakened up, but comes back in for potential rev strat back down because it opened and closed back into this range. However, still pretty sturdy. And if you go to the daily, it would still have to break something like this. It's the slow grinder up, still intact there. If you go to steel, SLX, Take the SLX, and the SLX is inside month and getting closer to taking that out, 43.25, and it's right there for steel, and that's giving you letter X. Already an outside month, so which is a fractal triangle. Remember, the triangles become support and resistance. You can see that on the weekly right here. Ding. Now trying to get through all of that stuff. If you go to that daily here, just small doge up in here to see if it can really stay above this stuff, or it's going to drop back in and have this triangle grow to the downside, or just try and focus through, poke through up in there, because if new core comes down here, you get your lower lows out of this range. That's good. Then you get back into here. Oftentimes you get a tight range. You take out both sides, so they've already taken this side out. So we'll see if there's enough in the tank to try and take that out. But once again, no new actionable signals are going to be the problem. If we go to copper, JJC Copper, here, coming out, and remember, this JDC has been a lot higher, so the potential for this up, sideways, and now measured move follow through. A strong day for copper on Friday. You didn't get much out of the SCCO here, and it just kind of stalls out. But if you take a look at TECK here, TECK on the weekly, going to do this rev strat to the upside. Hammer counters the inside bar. So TCK goes rev strat above 24.94. If we go to ATI rev strat inside bar countered by opening closing hammer back in there. So that would rev strat here above 21.83. CLF. Nice move there, and now the question is, you get the inside days if all this stuff's really going to come out of the ashes. Remember, this thing was over 120, so we'll see. Starting off as an inside day, and CNX here, CNX not so fortunate, and CNX going to start off like this, inside weak toward the downside. So momentum shooter inside there on CNX. If we go to the financials, this is going to get interesting here. We've been watching this triangle forever, and so the question now is this really going to break out of here? I've been watching this tight range, lower lows, higher highs, lower lows, and now tightening back into here, and just goes up in dojis on Friday right up into here. So the question is, we're going to drop back all the way through here, or is this finally the move to the upside? XLF, very similar, the same thing. KRE still has some room to even attempt that up there, so that could get it interesting here too if they all start moving to the upside. KRE is also this inside weak hammers to try and get outside of this thing. So we'll keep an eye on all this, because the banks, as we've been watching these triangles, we've been pulling back on trading these things until these things start to broaden or go inside like this, and now they are. So if we go to JP Morgan, still all this tight, slight higher high, slight lower low, but you got these hammers here to try and get out of that. Like I said, just like we're seeing in a whole bunch of things here. Is it finally time to take a shot at the highs or come into here? We'll see. We got Wells Fargo, and you can see this here like so. Slight higher high, the lower lows, try and get out of this stuff, and that's forming this. The weekly outside hammer to try and go triangle expansion up into there. And if you take a look at the monthly, you're going to see this inside month and up here above 57.32 for Wells Fargo. If we go to Bank of America, Bank of America still stuck up in there like everything else, and you see just still sitting here. There's going to be a lot of eyeballs on new highs or new lows. Is going to be the issue for a lot of these things on whether this is going to be a clean break or not. But you do got those side-by-side hammers. Tried to hit them. See if we can take a shot at the upside. If we go to Citicorp's, Citicorp's a little different because this is coming off these recent lows as opposed to being up in here. You can remember Citi was diving a bit here when the other one's stuck up in here. Citi does this, and now the question is going to reclaim back up into this business and come back up with the other ones, or is it going to continue to try and drag them down? You got daily hammer to start off the week there. If we go to the little guys, FHN, you're just going to see a lot of this similar stuff, but you get that KRE inside week. We want to see how that goes, and you see this FHN like so, trying to get out of here. And you'll see the weekly like this, rev strat to the upside, hammer back into the range. If we go to Huntington Bank shares, you're going to see a whole bunch of similar inside, Ozark here, hammer, PNC Bank, too strong to even hammer, and PNC just keeps walking up, and this is momentum hammer monthly if they want to stick it to these guys one more time. So as you can see, this thing hanging right near the highs. And so what's important is you're seeing like the Citicorp and the slight divergences in these things. That'll help us when things start to move, tell us which ones we want to start going after. And if you look at stuff like STT, remember you can see this is much bigger triangle here too. So potential, if they come back up and use this hammer back up into this stuff, would have a lot more juice in the tank as opposed to going straight into the highs. So we'll keep an eye on STT. You got STI, as you can see, doing that similar upper level stuff in here to try and hold this and then get out of here. And once again, hammers, hammer, stuff kind of like stuff like that. 2-bar inside pattern for that to try and get out of that for the start off the week. U.S. Bank inside momentum hammer and still near the highs, and as you can see, there's discernible strength and weakness where the other ones are stuck in here, or Citicorp down here. This thing's still hanging near the highs, and you do have potential actionable signal off the inside week. Good on Ameriprise Financial, same deal. It's a little bit stronger and hanging near the highs, and presently, if you look at the monthly, this is inside month and up and potentially measured move. So the highs are up in here, and if you get the power of this up, sideways, and up, maybe we got some more in the tank. And Ameriprise certainly would keep an eye on that. Go to AIG, and AIG did its little job last week by going weekly hammer up and back into this triangle. So on a fractal basis, that looks down like this. Just watch how it acts in here if it starts making a setup to go up towards that. If we go to MetLife, a little bit similar, dumping and then holding. So inside week here, you got your tight range, take out both sides, boom, boom. Now the question is going to be strong enough to take out that other side. Again, you got an inside week. And Pru, remember, we've known that's been stronger, and you can see Pru goes up off the weekly hammer as opposed to Met going down. And so the question is whether they're just going to get out of this range or not. And if you go to the monthly, here it goes inside month to the upside after this triangle we watched for years. So if we go to progressive weekly, inside week near the highs, and if you go back to the daily, when you draw these longer term triangles, you're going to see this support more often than not, trust me. Here's the old triangle, bam, and then comes up into here, gets right to it, stops, gets through it, and now riding the top and up. And inside week for PGR. If you go to VSER holding this gap up, which then goes inside week. Try and go back into new highs. More Dow Jonesers. If you go MA the same, and inside week to keep an eye on. Capital One inside week and still stuck in all this business here. Would need to get out of that, and what that gives us is the inside month as of right now to see if we can take all this stuff and go into the highs. If we go to American Express, once again, American Express, one of those financials nowhere near the highs here and still doing the chugga. It's a little boring, but it's getting the job done. You just want to see when it comes in like that so we don't have any actionable signals on that, but still some room on that if it wants to go towards all-time highs like everybody else in the world. Okay, if we go to Goldman Sachs certainly interesting here. The question, if we held this gap up and then shooting star inside day, hammer back up, so trying to use this to propel it back through and get back up into here. And so this is when we talk about when the triangles being too tight, they'll grow, they'll get bigger, and then you can see this other one in here, higher high, lower low, higher high, lower low, higher high, to see if it can get through all this stuff. It was RevStrat week to the upside. Last week, very slightly, so we're just going to see if there's any more setups to try and take it back towards the highs. If we go to Morgan Stanley, once again, very similar to a lot of those financials, trying to get out of this business up in here. It gaps up and just comes right back in. So, the best move for the financials would be back to the bottom of the triangle for us. But, more often than not, we don't get what we want, and they start taking them up. And that's why we can look for those things that are coming off the bottom of the triangle, should that occur. If we go to Legg Mason, still, as far as financials are concerned, never really made the big move, but now they are. Now they're inside month and up, and you've got this weekly momentum hammer to get through all this stuff. So certainly watching that combination in LM. If you go to Ameritrade, puker, so they hit it. Now it goes inside week, and so with how that lines up, and once again, when you hear me talking about inside bars, they're still like the UPS and stuff like that. Unless you can get outside of this or that, you can expect this kind of action. Down, up a little bit, down a little bit, up a little bit, down a little bit. It's consolidating. It's doing nothing. And so now you do form that equilibrium of the inside week. Now it's on a little bit better. Ideally, we'd get this thing to go down, sideways measure, move, and crack this thing. But we'll see either side of that. If we go to RDN, this RDN on the monthly here, just kind of breaking out it's momentum at this point. Here's your weekly and here's your monthly. It is momentum hammer taking this out, right? And so you can see here, it's a little steep, but anytime you take this out, we can draw that once the month closes out. But if this is a continuation pattern, we want to always look back to where these guys used to be. And these guys used to be somebody, and now the question is this, going to start rifling back up into this stuff. And so right now, momentum hammer monthly, and keep an eye on that thing. If we go to Crude Earl, USO, let's go to UCO. On the weekly, shrink that down a little bit. Crude Earl doing a whole bunch of nothing here, but here, you can see here, we do have this hammer. So we came down to try and test this range again. Now hammer on the crude, see if we can get this baby going back up into there. And that certainly would help the market if we can get some of these oil stocks going. But watching that hammer in the crude, if you go to XLE, here, we got a hammer there too. So you can see how these things have been countering the market. Drop, 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 drop. But now you got two hammers here on the XLE. If they want to start bringing these babies back up, XLP, the same. If you go to OIH, OIH is the old triangle support almost to the tick. So we got a bunch of hammers going on in the crude stuff. That's going to make that real interesting. If we go to Chevron, same deal. Hammer, hammer. And this is an outside week here. And then these two hammers. So what that tells me is it's a fractal triangle in here because it took out both sides. So certainly a Chevron hammer, and all these hammers are going to get my attention if I can get that crude to everybody, student body up off the hammers. Go to Exxon, and Exxon not getting it done just yet. We want to keep an eye on this stuff, though. Does take out these lows. And then on Friday, it went inside day to the upside. So obviously some issues in here, and not a hammer compared to everything else. But certainly if they all start going, Exxon in an interesting reclaim area if we can get any additional actionable signals. If we go to APA, you can see not participating here neither, but goes inside day, and so you can see the weekly here. Yeah, so those two, at least for right now, underperforming, but you got the inside day for APA. If you go to APC, there you go, and you got this tight range, hammer, hammer. So they've attempted twice to hit through this range and coming back through it. So certainly interesting there as well. APC, if we can watch those hammers with the rest of them. If we go to BP, all right, BP went up shooter off the weekly and then has been dropping ever since. And so certainly another underperformer for now. However, going inside day, we'll see how that starts off the week. If we go to CLR coming back up, and here, weekly somewhat tries to hammer off these slight lower lows. And remember, we were dogging this thing for a while because if you look at this monthly, ever since below 15 to 60, and then crater like that. So we'll see if that joins the party at all or continues that retrace down. Concho CXO on the monthly takes the month down, trying to go one bar ref strat right back up. And so some of these hammers were pretty violent. As you can see this move here, take them all out, and now it comes ripping towards the highs. And that's going to give you that big weekly rev strat inside hammer countered with a bigger hammer here if they want to get them going. So certainly interesting there because EOG, very similar here. They slammed them and then brought it right back up. EOG goes down, goes inside day and right back up. So joining the parade of hammers, if you will. If we go to FANG Energy, FANG, FANG does the same and comes back. That was an inside week, so potential rev strat there. It also did it on the week, on the month. Took the month out and comes back in, so potential 1 bar rev strat to the upside, 2 bar weekly if these oils start going. If we got GPOR, also the hammer, and you can see how badly this thing's been underperforming the rest, but down in here you got your lower lows and you're back into this range, and so that's going to look like something like this on the daily. See if we can get back up through that stuff. If we go to NFX, NFX does this. That's right, hammer, hammer. So, and an outside hammer fractal triangle, so we want to get above that. If we go to OIS, see the difference here. OIS has been hanging near the highs, but does that same deal. Takes out the range and comes back in. So it's also potential in the Rev Strat month because it took the inside month to downside, 2-bar pattern still, but with the rest of them hammers. Oxy. Yeah. So Oxy more of a spinning top doji than it is hammer. And that's because on Friday it goes up into here and then doesn't make the higher high and comes back in the middle of this range. So you're going to be real careful when you see a violent tight triangle like this. You're going to get chewed up, right? Unless it's discernible with the rest of them. Be real careful on Oxy because you're right in the middle of this range. If you go to Slobby, Slob says, give me some of that. I'll take it. I'll join the weekly hammer crew, and there it is. So we'll see that with the Halliburton, which has been much stronger, as you can see. And now Halliburton would be rev strat to the upside, hammer counters inside bar. If we go to WFT, another hammer, inside hammer, trying to get through all these eyeballs, and one of those things that used to be somebody trying to come out of the ashes here. So we'll see how that goes. Remember, we got the oil number, inventories number on Wednesday, and the additional one on Tuesday afternoon to see how we're set up come the middle of the week for all this stuff. If you go to Valero going inside week here, so you got the outside week, then this business here, and an inside week to see if it's going to try and retake all that stuff, or down sideways and measured move through that way. So if we go to Natty, you guys, momentum shooting star on the lows, seeing that it's going to be 60 degrees in Chicago in February. Yeah, Natty could have some issues. So if we go to RRC, you're going to see this is an inside week, still somewhat walking down that business here. If we go to Cheniere LNG, Cheniere hanging around and going inside weak momentum hammers here, and it's another used to be somebody volatile, so it's trying to drive its way back up through that, but it's multiple inside patterns, so either side of those weeks. I'm sorry, if you go to PSX refiner, we do have this. Another one of them weekly hammers to keep an eye on. Remember how bad this thing with the momentum shooting stars and then get clobbered. And on the daily, went all the way through this stuff and trying to get back up. But it is weekly hammer. We'll pay attention to all these hammers in the energies. If we go to XRT retail finally fighting back. And here, it's just walking down this stuff. But now trying to take all this stuff here. And you got a daily hammer here, momentum hammer, to try and take that's through all that stuff. Leader Costco, and Costco, daily momentum hammer to go for the measured move off the monthly. Hammer up inside month to the upside into the highs, and that's when you can have that momentum hammer so you can take all that stuff out. But certainly just about completing the measured move of this, and this. But we'll see if there's more in the tank to keep it going. Right, because you've got Target. No such luck. However, the good thing for Target in the long term, not right now, but is that, remember, we're watching this, and all this business was completely within that bar's range. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months. Then took it out, but now if it goes inside month here and reclaims that, that's potentially good longer term. Of course, we got plenty of month left to stay inside month, but in the long term, that's what we'd be looking at. Short term, nothing. Go to Walmart. Walmart still would be the inside month. We had the inside week and up here last week. The question is now, how do you get out of that? And still would be inside month as of right now, and starting off as inside day. Yep, inside day. You can see how this is exhaustion risk when you come up into here, and that's right back down, bam. So we'll see how that inside day begins for it, but still inside month in the Walmart. Cabela's was real nice off the inside day last week, and that was a beaut short, and some of the gang got that, and that was real nice. So you can see how this thing comes in and fills the gap and is just picking up steam here. We just don't have any new actionable signals, but certainly aware of that weakness if we can get some continuation setups for that. Coach trying to get out of the ashes here with an inside month to the upside. Now, still with all this month's range, but you are inside month to the upside, and then if you go to the weekly, it would be inside week monthly combo to try and get back up into this stuff. If we go to Dollar Gen coming out of the ashes, and The problemo here is still within here, 1, 2, 3 months in here. But at this point, it is RevStrat month because it was inside month, hammer back in. So it is RevStrat month above the 76.29er for now to try and get out of here. And it starts off as an inside day. So that'd be a combination inside day trying to get through this stuff. If we go to guess, which has been the perennial pig. However, finally, if Amazon's actually not putting everyone out of business, it goes inside month to the upside off the lows. And so guess GES is above 1322 right now. That's inside month and up. LB, still having some problems, but you do have this. If there's any hope, you got an inside week off some slight lows to see if they can retake this stuff or just puke into oblivion. Inside week for LB. Lowe's takes the week up, but it would still be 2-week pattern because it didn't get outside of this. And so if it starts getting out of that 2-week pattern, then we can look for setups to take out the inside month. And that was 74.75. So a bunch of that stuff real close to going off. Let's go to Macy's. Piggy still be forming the inside month down here, but you do have an inside week if there's any hope, or repuke. If we go to Ross Stores, nothing new there. Just like to continue to keep an eye on these guys that are outperforming in retail. And this thing is still near the highs and triangle them out, but good in here. And then back to the highs. No new actionable signals, and it's similar to TJ Maxx here to see if that can come up and take all this stuff out. But in the retail route, if you will, these two certainly have been unaffected. And you do have almost RevStrat here, but 3-month pattern to try and get outside of that for TJ Maxx. Tractor Supply. The question is, what is this in here? Right, 1, 2, 3 in here. The slight lower lows on the monthly, and the weekly looks like this. You got them slight higher highs off of this, like so. Now you have your lower lows like this, and now an inside week to see if this and then corrective activity and try and take a shot back up to here, or is it going to continue to roll down, go inside week and down? Either way on that baby. If we go to the IBB, tiny little weekly Momo hammer, and as we remember here, monthly is just still stuck in here. Went inside month and up, but 2-month pattern in here, so we want to try and at least take out the 2-month pattern to try and get outside of this thing. But once again, it's been case by case, as it's been for a very, very long time in here. If we take a look at XLV was a little better, held that month up and trying to get outside of this thing. If we go to big boys, you go to BIIB. And BIIB does take this thing out. Right? It takes that and reclaims that. That's somewhat good. So on the daily, remember, it came down in here, hammered, and it just walked back up into this gap. Potentially, that's good. And so we'll see if this inside week can help to get back into this range. If they just slightly tested these things here, take them all out now, try and come back up into here would be real nice. So we'll watch that inside week in BIIB for sure. Celgene just stuck in the mud, but it goes inside week. But now this inside week is in the middle of this bar again. That is a problem. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 weeks unable to get out of here, and now dead in the middle of that. So you want to be real careful on that. If we go to GILD, pig, and this thing just continues the walk of death on the monthly. And here, now we're coming into 50% retracement off the highs of death and still hanging around the lows. However, if there's any hope, you do have a gap to try and come up to. But as for right now, GILD goes inside day. So if there's any hope, that's your inside day equilibrium. If you go to Regeneron starts off as an inside day, and once again on that monthly, there's 3 months nowhere near taking out that stuff. And it would be RevStrat to the upside here because it opened and closed back into that month. We can take that out, but for the most part, tough sledding in here on how it's going to go. You hope to forget one of these type of moves, and then you just hop on. But in here, you get killed. If we go to Amgen, much better. Remember, we got out of this 3-week pattern into the upside there, and so Amgen, the month here, once again, goes inside month and still following through here to try and come up here. And a lot of that was on a gap, and it's just gap and sit, so I'll be watching to see how it can handle that consolidation there to get out of there. If you go to AGIO And interesting in the monthly, because whenever you see this big down red and then doji, if you can retake this up, it's called a Morningstar reversal, and oftentimes they completely retrace this up, and so that would probably have something to do with whether they hit them down not because they're gouging and they're not, and bring it back. But we're not going to let that concern us. But I would be aware of this thing if it starts rallying through the monthly highs and starts going bright green for us. Right now it might be a little premature. If we go to ALKS, and once again, the inside month, inside month, so that might get trapped in there. But I would keep an eye on this. You got this triangle here that it did come out of and comes back into it. So on the weekly, you'll see that hammer and then slight doji to see if this outside bar is the triangle and getting reclaimed like so here. So we'll see if it can start making a run to take all that stuff out and start running towards that. If we go to ALNY on the monthly here, still 3-month pattern in here, but it goes inside, outside. Now trying to get outside of that outsider, and what that tells me is there's a fractal triangle getting taken out, and you can see this daily clear as day. And I got an inside day to see if it can power through all that stuff, otherwise it's going to just drop in. So we'll keep an eye on that. We've got AstraZeneca. One of those dailies that's weeklies. We like to keep an eye on when you can see the discernible triangle, and you can see this. Look for continuation patterns throughout that if she's really going to come back towards it. If you go to blue going inside week here, and blue on the monthly, remember, it used to be somebody up in here. Now trying to get through all this, there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on here, but an inside week to try and take that out. If we go to the Kite, trying to get through this monthly here. Here's that inside month, and so looking at Kite above 53.90. If you go to the daily, you'll see this. The question is, what is this? Up, higher high, lower low hammer, and now right in the middle. So we'll see if we can break through all that stuff. That's where the monthly would be. If you go to Juno, and Juno coming up on the month. See if they've finally done what they're going to do to her. Inside month and up above 21.55. It's presently right there. If we go to Clovey, the big old triangle, to see if there's any continuation there. This month it stalls out a bit, but on the weekly you can see here that's just doing the chop around. So you want to be careful here, but looking at that big triangle. And then you get inside day here if it starts going through that on the upside. Otherwise you're going to fractally drop into here and do nothing. So if we go to ICPT. And ICPT tried to get out of this range, but gaps up to do it and comes right back in. So you certainly would need to take that out to the upside, because here it takes out the month, but it's still a 3-month pattern. But we'll respect that if we can take out that Friday opening, because that would combine with the month and up. If we go to ILMN, which has been sitting here doing nothing for seemingly ever, might be time here. As you can see this, multiple bar inside pattern. 1, 2, 3, and now 4 weeks within this range, but you had an outside week and then the inside week. So what that tells me is if that continues again, all this business is about to expand. And so we got a daily hammer to keep an eye on there in ILMN. If we go to Perigo, and Perigo trying to come off these lows like this. Remember, another month, 200 down to 79, really crush this thing. And so the question is whether they've done what they're going to do to her on this thing. And on the daily, just doing the creepy. I've got no new actionable signals here, just something to keep an eye on, to keep in perspective if the bios start going. If we go to PBYI, the same. Remember, PBYI used to be somebody too. Oh, how they had high hopes for her. Ow. So now it's not quite inside month, I don't believe, but we'll see if there's any hope off of this here, the slight rev strat 2-bar inside day. If we go to PTLA went inside day and up. We were hoping for the measured move, didn't get it, but the good thing about that, when it does that, is it comes up and it forms this. Forms the weekly momentum hammer to try and get through all this stuff. So that would potentially be good. So we'll be watching the momentum above PTLA here, above the 29.81. If we go to RARE, R-A-R-E, inside week and on the month, It would be Rev Strat month. It's a 3-month pattern, but there is a big range in there. And so we'll watch that inside week because remember on the daily, this triangle here, and if this power is real and this is corrective, and then you get daily hammer to trigger the week, hopefully we get up towards a 79 or so. So definitely going to keep an eye on that. If we go to SRPT, another story here. Oh no. And so SRPT, remember that monthly went up and just got cratered and then come down to test this stuff. But now, after it rallied and come down, this would be momentum shooting star on the monthly. If they want to take this out to the downside, that would be a big problem, and then potentially all the way back down into here. Of course, the drugs would not have to work or kill somebody, but we'll see. 27.19 is what we're looking at on that. So certainly be aware of that here. And once again, if this is just some corrective action here within the greater puking, take all this stuff out would be a problem. You can see all these levels here. So we'll see how that goes. If we go to Teva, Teva still pig, and it's just still a whipping boy, walking down and down and down. We just don't have any actionable signals at this point here, albeit these two, I believe, are 2-bar pattern right off the lows. If we go to UTHR, inside day here, which forms the inside week and still been one of the stronger names. And once again, when you get those guys that used to be somebody coming back, this is why we watch them. 190 down to sub 100, and now back to 164 with an inside week. If we go to the XLK and get to the tech sector, running out of signals a little bit on the tech, even because we got just like the Qs. You get those weak and up, and SMH here stalls out on it and doesn't really get through there. So if we look at the big boys, Facebook. So with the Facebooker, we got an inside week right near the highs. See what can keep powering into new highs off of this. Inside week, the risk is you are going to higher highs, but tis what it is. We'll see how that goes for the Facebookie. If you go to Amazon here, if you can see that. Let's go back to the monthly. Doji still inside, and remember on the here, cracked down off the earnings and now creeping back up into here. And what that did was take these levels out and start to reclaim. And so if you go to the weekly here, you'll see this. Wasn't quite inside weak there, but you can see how right down here held. Now you're just back in the middle is going to be the problem. Is how do we get out of this stuff, right? So it's back in the middle of this range is going to be a bit of an issue. So right now for Amazon, just still trying to walk up into the gap. If we go to Netflix last week, inside week and into the highs. It's also inside year and up. It's just straight momentum at this point. And if you go to the daily here, not quite an inside day. It would technically be rev strat if this is inside day, but still walking up here. We just got nothing new on that. As anytime you're powering into highs, it's straight momentum. Go to the Goog. The Goog monthly here would still handily be an inside month. Let's show that a little bit wider. Still trying to walk up, but still be handily an inside month, nowhere near taking out those highs or those lows. So you just want to be careful on something like that. If you go to the weekly, you'll see this here, inside week by a little bit. So you do have an inside week to try and propel it back up here. You can see this series here, boom, 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 bam, bam, and now trying to walk up. Dipsy-do, dipsy-do. Now inside week to see if Google can get outside of that. If you go to AMD, nice move there. Remember that was a daily monthly break here for the measured move up, inside, bam. Now stuck up into that business, and so what that does on the weekly, still going. It just it backs somewhat into that range, and it still is here on the monthly, handily inside month and up. And so that stays on the buy list so long as those conditions continue. If we go to Commvault, CVLT, Commvault, interesting here. You can look at this monthly, chopping them up at good in here, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, inside, outside, and then it takes this stuff out, but comes back into it. And so if we can get this to try and go back up, if you go to the weekly, you see this outside hammer here. So if they've taken all this range out, start to reclaim up in here off of this, that's going to get real interesting. And so this here on the daily going to look like this. Here, if we can get back up into this stuff, inside day with the hammer potential to try and get back up into their CVLT Commvault. We've got MSI Motorola. not so fortunate. You do have 3 days inside of here to see if we can get out of that, but at this point it is inside month to the downside, so we'll see if they can hit that a little bit more. If we go to MU, nice run inside week to see if this series continues up, 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 up. Now it is in the neighborhood where it would back off, but if we get the momentum move up, sideways, inside week and up, that would be nice. If we go to NVIDIA backs off. So NVIDIA, the slight higher high now, shooting star. So the question is going to try and form this big upper level triangle where it starts coming back through, down through all this stuff. Presently, it is inside month to the upside. However, in order to get there, we all know what kind of move it made. And so dropping back in would not surprise me at all. So we're going to pay close attention to that monthly if things are going up. In this weekly shooter if they start going down. If we go to NXPI, we know there's a deal cooking there, but the question is, what would it look like to go? And you come down hammer and go up there, and so the monthly is inside and then closes here rev strat to the upside. So if they're going to make the deal, that might be what the chart might be telling you. If you go to Oracle old school is inside month and up, not doing anything too exciting, but it has taken an inside month to try and get outside of this outside month fractal triangle. If we go to PFPT, here, inside week to try and take a shot towards the highs here, momentum hammer. If we go to Qualcomm fighting back for life after getting clobbered in here. So the question is down, sideways, measured move, and really clobber this thing, or take the inside week back up. So we'll pay attention to that inside week for Qualcomm. Corvo on the daily doing these momentum hammers to see if this continuation pattern, really stop them all out and go ripping here, can continue. Because if you go to that weekly, remember we were watching this triangle, we got out of here, and now it's just momentum back through this stuff. If you go to the monthly, here it's trying to get through all this stuff. So we'll see how those daily momentum hammers go to start off the week. If you go to Sina, S-I-N-A, this is inside month and up, and you can see the big triangle in here. Bam, 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 bam. So the question is, what is this? Is this corrective action with the real move going up into there? Right now, you're inside month and up. And if you go to the daily, you're going to see that shorter term monthly stuff looking like this. Here to try and here's the big triangle in here to try and see if this can measured move through all through that stuff. So I'm gonna we'll stay on that as long as that month and up is there. SWKS semi, inside day, inside week. So the question is, we have the measured movement or up, sideways, inside, and start cranking up into here. See how that goes. Teradyne also weekly momentum hammer, and it's one of those semis we've been watching because we can go back to the heyday of the 2000s. A lot of this stuff was a lot higher if these techs are really turning around. If we go to STX, a slight momentum hammer up in here on the weekly, just doing the slow grinder here, and another daily momentum hammer in the Western Digi. A little similar, although it drops in a bit, but it would be 2 week inside bar pattern because I haven't taken out that week as yet. TSM, trying to go rev strat. This is Taiwan Semi going to rev strat upside weekly. Inside week hammers against it. That would trigger above 30.97. Go to Twitter. Twitter still all sorts of trouble. Outside week to the downside, and what that did was the monthly rev strat to the downside here. Took care of business and said, nope, inside month goes to the upside, then 1 bar rev strat down. So below 1621, that's still in force for the rest of the month. If we go to just a few more, ACIA, still big old pig, as you can see, this thing dumped and then just been walking down the monthlies. However, if there's any hope for ACIA, you got an inside week here, and so we can keep an eye on that if there's any hope for this thing. Then above 57.38 is where we'd be looking for that. If you go to Baxter here, Baxter inside week, and if this triangle plays out, potentially up, sideways measured move and take out the high. So you can keep an eye on BAX, Berkey B, which is going to affect FAS. Comes up here and you see these side-by-side hammers like we're seeing in a lot of stuff. There'll also be slight rev strat to the upside, but watching those side-by-side hammers because that could help propel the FAS out of that triangle. If we go to Borg Warner, BWA, You'll see this Borg-Warner monthly, trying to go measured move. Remember, this is an inside hammer up, now inside, so it goes up, sideways measured move to try and take all this stuff out. So that's inside month to the upside, about 41.43 in the Borg-Warner. CF in the AGs, remember, used to be somebody up in here, and now trying to do this. The RevStrat week, inside week countered with hammer, goes RevStrat above 35.90. If you go to the solar, CSIQ, trying to go here, the hammer against this stuff, but now it's inside weak. So if this tight range has been tested down here and wants to take all that stuff out, that would be nice. Inside weak up above 1254 because FSLR. It's just a slight little hammer on that weekly, but that daily, remember this triangle here, bam, 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 bam. So the question is going to try and triangle all the way back up through here again. We'd need some additional stuff because on the monthly, what you got here is 3-month inside pattern of this, which needs to change. If we go to JKS in the Sola, JKS here, if that takes that out, and that takes that out and tries to get back into this range, you got a daily triangle that's looking like this. So we'll see if those solars start going. If we go to General Dynamics, we can see in the defensive, or should I say defense, all these days stuck in there. However, what that does is it gives you the inside weak to try and go measured move to the upside because you're seeing Northrop Grumman here trying to come up and take out the inside month. Here you've got Raytheon, what do we say? General Dynamics, Raytheon, and Raytheon trying to take the inside months to the upside with LMT. So we'll see if all this warfare stuff gets it going. If we go to the home builders, ITB, here you can see trying to get through all this stuff towards the highs. What it did was inside week up, a 2-week inside pattern. If there's any more there, you got Weyerhaeuser right now. Went week and up and tried to go week and up, month and up. It's a lot of eyeballs in this neighborhood, but you are inside month and up. Toll Brothers doing this on the weekly. RevStrat week, outside hammer, counters inside week, so we can keep an eye on that. Little guy, Hovanian, RevStrat week back to the upside. So if this move here was real, this is the corrective activity. This is what we'd want to know about. 2-bar pattern inside of that. RevStrat back to the upside if they can take it out. If you go to WLH, William Lyon Homes, also RevStrat week. We'll see if we can get out of that. If we go to Fleur Corp, FLR, and once again, you can see a lot of this potential RevStrat stuff to the upside on the weekly. If we go to, it's also daily momentum hammer to try and get out of here too, like this. If we go to Good Tires, GT, inside day, monthly combo. All right, inside month, inside day, above that stuff. GTLS, talk about another used to be somebody here, and now trying to come back. This is inside month and up here above the 39.36 that's presently in force. So see if like I said, I always like to look at these used to be somebodies if they start to come back. J-Bill Circuit, JBL. Inside monthly Momo hammer to the upside, going into new recent highs. If you take this out, it's another used to be somebody here. See this? Used to be somebody back in the day, and now the question is this long monthly consolidation getting ready to break out of this stuff. And that's why we look at the long-term charts. If we go to JCI, a little bit similar there too. And JCI, shrink it down. JCI pokes down on this monthly just a touch. And so it's trying to get back in here. It's a 1, 2, 3, 4-month pattern of this, but the question is whether this is all it's got on the testing of the downside and starts to come back up, because on the weekly you'll see that represented like this, the slight higher highs, the slight lower lows, but still stronger than that. And then on the daily you'll see a tighter triangle to keep an eye on here. If we go to LVS, interesting here, just seeing if we can get off the bottom of that. But what it does is goes inside weak, I believe here. Yes, inside weak to either trying to expand this business or hold and try and come back up. We're going to watch the rest of them with that. If you go to Mondelez, Mondelez, you remember this big weekly triangle here. Now, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 inside of this. But you did have your test to the downside trying to come back up. And so what that's going to look like on the daily is this here, trying to get out of this. Tight triangle, get killed. The hopes is this is the attempt at the expansion on the downside. It goes back up here and tries to test through there. If we go to NXST, presently inside month to the upside, momentum hammer going into the highs, and last week pulled back and then re-rallied, so it's inside week, potentially inside month to the upside, just going into higher highs would be your issue. Sherwin-Williams, SHW, up 2-week pattern, the potential up sideways measured move to try and take out those highs. Remember that was a nice move last month off of this. Boom, up sideways measured move. Now we'll see if they can do it again on the weekly. You got a VIPS VIPS RevStrat month to the upside. Inside month countered here like so. And WABA, WB, 1 bar RevStrat monthly too. It's an inside month, took it to the downside, and they came ripping back through the upside. And we'll see if that continues off the inside day. And last but not least, Tesla still going. And Tesla, on the long-term macro video that made earlier in the year, is RevStrat quarter to the upside and still going. And so now you're starting to work on this and this, and then of course new all-time highs. You're just lacking the shorter-term actionable signals like we had last week with the inside week to the upside. Now that's exhausted. What you do have is a little bit of a daily momentum hammer here if they just want to keep sticking it to them. So we'll see how that goes. So certainly a lot of those hammers in the oil is going to be very interesting here to start off the week, and certainly the position of all those triangles in the XLF going to make a big difference there too. So we'll see how that goes, and we'll monitor it all week. All right. Hope everybody had a great weekend. I'm Rob Smith, the Black Quant Edge VTF here, TV Live.